In this next lesson, we're going to focus on the proper way to create a library. Now you might be thinking, well, wait a minute, that can't be all that difficult. You go to add an app, you pick document library, you give it a name, right? And the answer is almost right, but that omits a few best practices, and we really need to follow these best practices. So, a couple of things before we begin. In a later lesson, we're also going to look at renaming a library. One of your instructor's pet peeves happens to be this library simply called Documents. Now, we did not create this. This came out of the template when we built ourselves a team site. You just get a library called Documents, and anything this generically named is bound to become a digital dumping ground. That's where people are going to throw stuff because they have no idea where else to put it. So one of the things I strongly caution people to do is please rename that before you do. You don't have to delete it, but certainly rename it. Anyway, we'll rename that later. In this lesson, let's go and add for ourselves a document library. Now the thing to remember about libraries as well as lists is that when you take the quick way through, which is what we're doing, the only thing for which we will be prompted is a name. Some advanced options will give us a little bit more control over some stuff, like a description and do I want this wired into navigation. That's a little more than I want right now, so give me a moment to cancel this. Let's just start that over, because the option I really wanted wasn't there anyway. The name that I select here is also going to be the name of the URL. And like we keep reminding everyone, you have 400 characters. Once you exceed that limit, you've now got problems. So I want the URL to be very, very short and terse. Understandable, but short and terse, whereas the actual full name can really be anything you like. Remember that the way all web browsers render a space is with 3 characters. It's always %20. And that's a problem because that's 3 out of your 400, but too many of those spaces and you quickly chew through your character count. So what I'm going to do here is give it a very short and ugly name. We're going to make up a library, and we're just going to call this, I prefer to call it Project Delta Updates, but that's way too many letters. Okay, so we're just going to say Proj Updates 1. Now, is that a typo? It's a horrible typo. But what I'm going to do later is go back and rename it to something nice. So watch how this works. I'll just click Create. There we are. Let's see where it is. Here's Proj Updates 1. I'll click into this. And what you'll notice is that it's kind of got a horrible name. It truly needs to be renamed. I haven't applied it to navigation yet. That's coming up. But you do notice I do get a nice clean representation up here on the address bar. I at least get this, right? It's all lowercase, it's smooth. I don't have %20 making this thing difficult to read. So what we'll do later is we'll come back and I'll rename this one, get it wired into the navigation. We certainly want to rename this one as well. But there's a few more things that we want to know before we make that jump. So the thing to remember now is that when you first create the library, or for that matter a list, keep the name as short and ugly as you can. Make it understandable, and then that's it. After it's been created, go back and then make the name look nice, because you will not disrupt the URL and then risk hitting your 400 character limit.